gives you the right to stop my show?
Mr. Bronsky, we are trying to stop a war.
What does that got to do with a comedy number?
Your presentation could be construed as a direct insult to Chancellor Hitler.
Construed, it was meant to be an insult.
Lupinski, shut up.
I am sorry to tell you this, Mr. Bronsky, but we cannot allow you to ridicule the leaders of the Third Reich. It's too risky.
Let me tell you something, Dr. Boyarsky. The curtain's going up again, and we're going to finish that number. We are not backing down.
Then we are closing this theater.
We're backing down.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Ryan, how are you doing?
I am feeling overjoyed. I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited to talk to you. Indeedy do.
Oh, overjoyed, huh? So like excessive joy? Like hypo joy?
My preferred Polish candidate for presidency won.
Yes. And correction from last week, even though the end of his last name is CKI, it is pronounced ski at the end.
Did your mum tell you?
Yes. It wasn't that she was correcting me, it's that she said it. I'm like, oh, is that how it's pronounced?
Right. Do you want to highlight everyone about, like, do you want to give people the highlights of the Polish political system and how it went overall? Like, who won and what side is he on? How's it going to go from here? Also, crazy to think, we had a Polish president in charge for basically the entirety of our run of this podcast.
Yeah, a few months before we started.
That's insane.
So this is
I didn't even think about that. We've had like 15 prime ministers since we started this podcast, but Poland had the same guy.
You know, to talk about a different country just for a second, in Japan, every time they get a new emperor, they have like the new era, and then it becomes like that era name 1, and then the next year is that era name 2. This is like the second era for spitting Polish, the Nawrocki era.
That's true. We've had one pope. Now we have 2 popes during our time of this podcast. Correct?
When did Benedict step down?
Benedict, I thought he was before 2015. I thought
Francis would have been around a while then.
So we've had 2. Let's just say we've had 2 popes and 2 Polish presidents, but we had like 15 Australian prime ministers, a couple of presidents.
Yeah,
pretty nuts.
The winner is from the same party as Duda, so the Conservative Party.
Oh. Okay. Well, you know, as long as he carries on Duda's legacy.
Yeah, he was the one that the left-wing guy was trying to smear by saying like, oh, he was in that fight, that punch-on forever ago.
He used to work at a club and he got into a nasty fight, but then President Duda was saying, hey, if it was an agreed-upon fight, then all bets are off.
Yeah, both sides agreed to the fight, and they did it away from the public, so it's fine.
Okay. Now,
and his name's Karol.
Talking about Polish politics, we're actually covering a movie today that does involve some, which is fun.
On the Wikipedia page, when it says languages for this film, it's English and Polish.
No German.
No German, no Yiddish.
No Yiddish. But we are talking about movies that come recommended. Each week, somebody has recommended a film for us to watch and then talk about. This time, it was Bartek. Mm-hmm. Bartek's pick was which film?
The 1983 film To Be or Not to Be.
Which is an adaptation of a pre-existing film. I don't know if that film was based off anything else, but like that film was from the early 40s.
Yeah.
And this is the remake, starring Mel Brooks, produced by Mel Brooks, not written or directed by Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
And you can weirdly feel it, but also you can't. It's such a strange oddity. At the end of this episode, I will be recommending the film for the next one that we go into and watch and discuss. And then the week after that, the listening people, that's right, you out there can recommend movies to us. We add them to the list and we eventually get around to them. So feel free to contact us. Let us know your feelings about movies we've discussed, as well as your own picks for us to get around to. So Bartek, to be or not to be, that is the question. See,
that's Shakespeare.
That's Shakespeare.
I know that one.
Who is not Jewish. Really?
Really? Ooh.
I'm shocked to hear that. But no, the real question I have to ask is not just for you to give a summary. You know, we're not going to, we can brush that aside. How good was the Polish in this movie?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. Like I mentioned, I as I always do when I recommend a film, I give my history when I recommend the film. I said that I hadn't finished this film before. I'd only watched half of it before, but I'd rewatched the opening scene like multiple times where Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks are singing in Polish. It's very good there. The argument is like perfect. And it's a little bit more Polish later on. Like there's the Air Force people that are singing together. I couldn't quite make out their words there, but the few that I did work out, I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like Polish singing.
I haven't looked up too much of the behind the scenes of this movie, but it was actually Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks singing and speaking in Polish. Like from your ear, you could tell that's them. I assume so, but I just wanted to know from someone who can hear it in their own ears to confirm.
Yeah, I mentioned last week that I had been thinking about this film lately, but then I'd also seen an interview with Mel Brooks where he brought this up, where he was asked, like, oh, what's your favorite thing you've ever done in the films? Like, oh, singing in Polish with Anne. And he talked about that whole experience, how they don't speak Polish, but they were, instructed on how to do everything, how to say the words, how to sing it. And yeah, he just talks about it's his favorite thing he's ever done.
I know with your connection and relationship with the Polish language, it can be a bit specific depending the instance of what I ask of you.
Yeah.
But can you tell people's accents when they speak in Polish? Because obviously these people are taught how to speak Polish, but I imagine they still have their accent.
Yeah, there's
Can you tell that? Because
there was a couple of words in the opening number where I'm like, oh yeah, they're sounding very Jewish there, like not speaking Polish kind of Jewish, like their regular accent, like when they say like Georgie Bean or something like that.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanting to know.
In general, though, maybe not as much. Maybe if it was something really obvious, like a Białystok accent.
It's not a Michael Fassbender in Inglourious Bastards where they have to come up with a whole reasoning for why his German accent sounds English, where it's like a whole backstory. Like they have to do the whole ploy of that.
Or Brad Pitt's Italian.
I like that Michael Fassbender, from what I can recall, he auditioned to be he auditioned for the Christoph Waltz role.
I think you mentioned that before.
And he didn't get it because his German accent was terrible. And when he could speak German, but his German accent's awful. And it's like, well, let's write that into the film because he's such a good actor. Let's get him anyway. But to be or not to be, the 1983, correct?
I think 83, yeah.
The film is quite a complicated one when it comes to the story. Lots of farcical natures to it, but also deadly serious moments of it as well. But to boil it down to something precise and simple for people out there who should watch this, you should give this a watch for yourself. It is available online out there for you to view. But we are in Poland during the Nazi occupation, at least for a section of it. And we're following this struggling theater company who are trying to make their way in the world under this regime. And we are following the husband and wife who are the leads of this theater troupe as well as the owners of it. And hijinks ensues.
Yeah, very much a comedy of errors.
It's very much a comedy of errors as these Polish officers get involved thinking like, hey, we need to track down this Nazi sympathizer. This Nazi sympathizer is meeting up with Mel Brooks's wife and she's doing this and this and this and this, and lots and lots and lots of stuff is happening. Yeah,
the film begins like we have like 15, 20 minutes of like pre-invasion Poland, where you get something set up, and a lot of the setup there, like just the snowball keeps rolling throughout the rest of the film.
So, everyone, we're going to get into it. So if you've not watched it, be warned, we're going to spoil stuff. Although this is a farce, there's also a lot of hard-hitting stuff in there that I think is worth seeing play out. I have not seen this before. I've been aware of it. I've seen the poster of it. I've seen the music video that has no relation. The song's not in the movie, but it was a hit.
It's a contemporary rap that was like made to promote the film, I guess.
It was, and it was a. I don't mean this as a negative, but it's probably bigger than the movie.
I think so, yeah.
It's had a bigger life and bigger success in a weird way, where Mel Brooks is Hitler and he's singing his little rap about the rise and fall of
the Hitler
regime,
rap. I think,
Hitler rap.
Yeah, what little I've heard referencing this film outside of, people specifically talking about having seen it, is them mentioning the Hitler rap.
Yes, don't be stupid, be a smarty, come and join the Nazi party. One of the lines from the rap.
Mhm.
And I mean this truly. The Epic Rap Battles of History YouTube channel put off doing Hitler for two reasons. One, they did eventually get around to it. One, it's Hitler. They were concerned if it was too much.
Mhm.
Two, Mel Brooks already did the greatest Hitler rap that you could ever imagine a comedy person to do. So why? And then they did, and it's one of their worst raps. So they did it multiple times. It was it's Darth Vader versus Hitler, because they thought the workaround is, what happens if we had Hitler versus a fictional character, because that would be less grueling for the audience. I think they were cowards. I think they should have had Hitler versus, pick some other evil monster. They did that later with the Russians. Boy, did they have some fun. But I'd not seen this before. I knew some basic elements of the plot because I'm aware of the 1940s original movie. I've not seen that either.
Oh, I thought you had. My mistake.
No, I've never. It's been on the watch list. It's always been like, oh, I should check out the original 40s movie.
Yeah, it's on mine now for sure.
I've always heard that this version isn't very good.
Yeah.
Like, people prefer the original, that this is a watering down or a bastardization, or it's Mel Brooks injecting his style onto a really great, great beloved film. And I can sense that. That's my biggest complaint, is I wish it picked a lane with what tone it wants to be. Because I could enjoy it more if it wanted to be the farce, the comedy of errors, the Allo Allo equivalent in a movie form, because Allo Allo is a beloved sitcom in which it's the French, and they have this painting that they're hiding from the Nazis, and it's like this ongoing series, and it's a comedy of errors each time, and the painting has a silly name, and if it was more of that, I could tolerate it. But then it will sideswipe and go into really, really heavy stuff. Like, I had to explain to my wife, she did not watch this with me, the way that I had a problem with this movie is, it's a Mel Brooks film. And she goes, yeah, I've seen a Mel Brooks movie. Okay. So imagine all the Mel Brooks stuff, like he says, Heil myself. But it's also the film that first introduced to the world, and in the world of film that is, that the Nazis put pink triangles on gay people to mark them out. This is the first film to bring that up.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's like, what a weird... That's where I'm at with this movie. It's like, I kind of wish it would pick one or the other. I like Mel Brooks. I think he's very funny. But some of his Mel Brooksian interjections of levity in this movie just felt off to me. I don't know if it's like the timing. He's not the director, so the timing of it, or... the best way I can describe it is they were self-indulgent to me. There was like, oh, he has to do these Mel Brooks thing because he's Mel Brooks. I kind of wish we eased up on it at times. And so for me, I liked lots of it, but then there were just bits of it. I was like, this just doesn't fully gel for me. Like, there's this moment where it was like, the Nazis are hunting down the gay character, and it's like really harrowing stuff. And then... within 10 minutes, we're like, oh no, will the little puppy make it onto the plane? I sure hope not. And then it's like Mel Brooks' joke of like repeating the same sentence 4 times over. And it's like, guys, you can't do this all. It's not working for me. I can't tolerate it.
It worked for me a bit more, but the repeating one and like the puppy thing is like, okay. Like, I was still at the edge of my seat with the puppy one, because like, oh geez, this is really intense. But yeah, the repeating line, it's like, oh, we just had... the intense climax of the film. Maybe let's just move on with how you're going.
And there was just a bunch of those type of things sprinkled out. But then there was some really good things. So I kind of even out on it, in which I am very interested to see what the original film is like, to see what type of tone it goes for. But I appreciate that this didn't hold back on what the setting is. Like, we're in the 1930s, 40s Poland occupied by the Nazis. Yeah, it's not going to be a fun time.
Yeah. Knowing Mel Brooks's MO with how to depict Nazis in films, like I appreciated really much how it still had, goofifying them, not making them serious or cool, still having all the gags there, but then also still taking very seriously, like, hey, this is the thing they did happening for real. This is the invasion. Like when they invade and you have that black and white sequence where all the cast are just like standing off the side of the street watching them march in the foreground. Like it was sincere. And the scene where the hidden Jews are dressed as clowns going through the audience, and one of them, almost gives them away because they're, distraught at what they're seeing, and they have to cover it up by doing like a Yuden joke. Like that reminded me very much of like the song in Cabaret where the gorilla, it's like a Jew.
I was thinking of Cabaret at many points during this as well. And of course the producers, talking about Mel Brooks with some of the callbacks and little weaving in and out of that stuff. But you have that emotional moment where that one actor who wants to do his Shylock throughout the whole movie, he wants to be the serious actor, and he has to deliver the big speech to Hitler, which is just Mel Brooks pretending to be Hitler
in quotes.
And you see like some of the fellow theater people dressed up as Nazi officers, they can't help but shed tears at just how emotional this speech is and how true and raw it is. And it's little things like that really go such a long way. And there's just so many moments like that in this movie. But then it would also just be like, Christopher Lloyd's here, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the little punching bag to the head colonel Nazi guy. And it's just like, they're just Mel Brooks slapstick boobs. But then I would say the film has the most contempt, like in a genuine way. They don't play this up for comedy for the Jose Ferrer character, the professor, the doctor? The one who's the Pole, who is a Nazi sympathizer. They don't treat him with any boobery or funny stuff. The film treats him with an appropriate level of contempt. Like the film itself, Mel Brooks even has a dramatic line delivery of like, how could you do this? You're a Pole. Like, how could you do this? And it's like, that's the one, like, of the more villainous side of the movie that this film does not even try to make a joke of.
The closest you get is like, oh, he's getting horny at the seduction, but even then, that's not like goofy horny or anything like that.
No, that's just being true because Anne Bancroft is hot and Mel Brooks knows his wife is hot, so,
No, the producer of the film is really pushing this Anne Bancroft lady.
So you said that you have seen this film before, but not in full.
I'd only seen half of it. I was on a flight back from Poland, and I was, very tired.
You're feeling patriotic, and you wanted to watch this, huh?
Patriotic. I was talking to my mum, and I guess the film was brought up, and we'd been talking for a while. I was like, okay, I'm going to go do something. You should check out this film. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. So go straight from that conversation to watching the film. And I was watching it. I was enjoying it, but inevitably, I was just on a long flight. I fell asleep. I think it might have been in the scene at the apartment where Anne Bancroft and Tim Matheson are having their conversation about like, oh, we have to go do this. And Mel Brooks is stuck between, wanting to chew them out for their affair and also is invested in the plot that they're talking about. I think it was maybe at that point that I stopped.
That's a great scene.
Yeah, but this film was always one where it's like, oh, I need to go back to that at some point. It just had been in my head for, I don't even know what year it was that I'd watched it, but certainly a dozen years or so. And, like I said, it'd been on my mind lately, so I'm like, let's finally do it. Let's check it out.
And how was it to see it in full?
So I had the same reservations that you were mentioning before about like looking up the film that I had never finished and seeing that it's kind of middling, like not too many people are fond of it. So I walked in cautious, but I walked out loving the film. I had a really, really great time with it. I was very surprised.
No, that's great to hear. I thought when I was watching this, Bartek's going to enjoy this. I think this has a lot of your sensibilities, even when it comes to the Mel Brooksian side of things. Like, you're a bigger fan of the producers than I was, and this kind of like, obviously I can't help but think of the producers when watching this, because it does have a lot of that DNA in there too. But I'm glad that you loved it. I want to ask this straight off the bat. How do you feel about the overall Brooksian element of this movie, even though he is not the director or writer of it? Because it is an oddity. This is the only film he is the lead of in which he's not the director.
It's interesting, yeah. I did like that it wasn't something that was like 100% full on in this film. Like I said before, when it comes and goes, I think it was appropriately done. When the film gets, very serious and intense, like I was on the edge of my seat for a lot of this film, when it was getting intense, I thought that was very valuable and gave like a sincere aspect to the film. I liked that it was going between the goofy, which, felt very Mel Brooksian, especially when you have basically all the scenes with Earhart, Colonel Earhart and Schultz, the Christopher Lloyd character. But then, you have the whole climax leading up to them getting on the bomber plane, where it's just this intense kind of heist film where, like I said, there was the scene that reminded me of Cabaret with the, like, oh shit, it's doing this now. I literally out loud said, oh shit, because I was, fearful for these characters.
This is an interesting case too, because the director did not direct many things. He directed one other feature film, which was a Brooks production, and an infamous flop, Solar Babies, which was Mel Brooks's attempt at the big sci-fi, which is hilarious. Mel Brooks is not in it, just producing wise. And he directed the music video, the Hitler Rap music video. He worked a lot as additional crew in Mel Brooks stuff, choreographer in his stuff. But I just wanted to factor that in because I thought that this was better directed on a visual level than most of Mel Brooks's endeavors. Because I like Mel Brooks, but in terms of visually speaking, he does what he needs to get the jokes across. I think the exception to the rule is Young Frankenstein is so beautifully shot with the black and white, and he's so invoking what those monster movies were that he just captures it so well. But with most of his other films, like, yeah, I get what he's doing, but like I'm not as impressed with his like actual direction in terms of visually. He's great at directing actors, and that's what you need, I think, of Mel Brooks. But this film, I thought it was visually very well done. I thought, oh, this is really capturing something more than maybe what the script is. And I think this director's getting good stuff out of these actors. So I just wanted to also flag that of like, I think that's why there's a disconnect of the Brooksian element of it as well, because although this is a farce, I didn't feel like there was a lot of visual zingers and jokes and silly camera moves and any of that stuff that you would see in a Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, if you walked into this carrying that misconception that this is directed and written by him, you would probably be very confused.
But I thought he did a good job, Mel Brooks, as a lead. I didn't mind him. I just wish he was with his wife more.
Yeah.
They're separated for a good portion of it, and I just wish that they were in it more because they had great on-screen chemistry. Yeah, they were married in real life, and the characters are married, but I just thought that they worked really, really well together, and I would have loved more of them because they had that smart, alecky back and forthness of the 1940s comedy stylings, and I just... It's like when we watched The Thin Man.
I was thinking that,
and it's like, oh man, I wish there was more of these two in the movie. And it's like, well, that's why there's a whole series of movies after this, because everyone agreed we needed more of these two drunkards. Well, in this movie, it's like, oh, I wish we had more of them together, because I just liked their singing and dancing and their quips and their romantic moments. Like, you could tell that they genuinely loved each other.
Yeah, even though for most of this film, like, she's embroiled in this whole comedy of errors affair with him. Like, eventually they do have that scene where, she wishes him, well, not luck, but she, says something very sweet to him as he's going out, and he tells her, like, oh, look, if I don't make it back, I forgive you for what you've done. And he has, like, a little funny follow-up to that, but it was very sweet.
Yeah, I think, like, when it comes to Mel Brooks, he can get very serious about certain things. Like Blazing Saddles is one of those movies that people flag up of like, yeah, this is him dealing with like the racist reality of westerns and doing it his way, doing it his silly way. But there's still always like a levity there. Like I would never say any of his movies get as hard hitting as some of the shit we get in this one. Like even with Blazing Saddles, with all of the profanity and all of the allusions to lynchings and all this stuff, you still have like Gene Wilder there. Being Mr. They're simple folk. People of the soil, idiots. And you just can't help but laugh. And they keep the take where Cleveland Little couldn't help but crack up either. And you're like, yeah, that's a Mel Brooks movie. He's got to keep that in. There is no Dom DeLuise doing a big musical number to end the movie on in this one. This is balancing that the tones. And for me, I don't know. Like I wonder if on a rewatch how I would feel, but just on walking out of it, I just thrown for a loop of like how much of this was a serious war drama and how much of it was like an attempt at a Mel Brooks comedy of errors. And I just couldn't swallow it for some reason. I'm like, I can't handle that.
I guess it worked for me because the opening act of the film, all the stuff before the invasion happens, it does feel a lot more Mel Brooksian there because it is just like a straight comedy film happening there. Like, you've got these silly plays that they're putting on. You've got the gag where they stop speaking Polish because the narrator's like, this is too confusing.
Yeah.
And Anne Bancroft, like, is very relieved about that. You've got, like, very stereotypical gay character, just, gaying it up the whole way through. And then once the invasion happens and the characters learn about it, like, it is completely serious. They drop the pretense about like, not caring about it. The closest they have to continuing it is that Mel Brooks doesn't realize immediately and is thinking that they're talking about, a guy in the audience rather than Hitler himself. But then once he learns, like, no, the invasion's happened, like, he drops it.
Well, he does have a little quip.
He does.
He does have a little quip about, like, this is also bad.
But yeah, as the film goes on, like, all of that changes where they're dealing with the reality of the situation, the, reality of World War II.
I won't let them take my house. They'll never take my house. And then cut to they're taking his house and he's letting them take his house. And
with the gay character, like, suddenly they're also dealing with the reality. Like the second act, you have that scene where he's going out on a date and he's talking about the pink triangle and it is more somber. He's still got like a bit of sass there, but it's more somber. And then third act, like they're after him and we
have to save him.
And it's completely serious and like all jokes about him completely gone other than dressing in drag. But yeah, all the jokes are gone with that character and like, we have to save this character. It's like the big motivation for quite a chunk of that third act.
There's a lot of familiar faces, big and small. It's an impressive cast of people. We have Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, of course. They're the two big leads. I'm less familiar with her. I've only seen her in a handful of things, and always Mel Brooks related. She was in The Elephant Man, which, never forget, Mel Brooks produced.
Secretly produced it.
Secretly produced. I mean, it does say at the end of the credits a Brooks Films, but he doesn't have his name because it would be too silly. He did that with another movie too that's also quite serious. You're like, oh, you did that too? Oh boy, you got a lot of business savviness in your mind. He just likes weird stuff, and he's like, I would love to produce this weird thing and no one will know it was me because it would be. Could you imagine if Elephant Man did win Oscars and Mel Brooks got on stage and did his shtick? Could you imagine?
Would he do his shtick?
No, I don't think he would. Well, here's the thing. I feel like he's incapable, but I know he isn't.
He'd probably be holding back in best case scenario.
Have you ever seen him in interviews? He can never hold back. He always grabs out his comb.
That's true. On my DVD, there was a behind-the-scenes featurette, and like the very last 15 seconds is like someone asks him a serious question. He's like, do you want me to answer that seriously? Like super seriously? No jokes here? And then he quacks and does a couple of raspberries.
There's the bit where he was interviewed about his time on The Elephant Man, and he talked about like how he met David Lynch. And he was like, oh, and David Lynch, I was expecting like this freak with like a nose on the side of his head. But instead he came out and he had his shirt buttoned all the way up to the top and nice hair. And he spoke with a nice, good old boy drawl, real scary stuff. He's like, that's what scared him. Was like, he sounded like, he could paint a fence, real scary stuff.
Yeah. The details of it escape me, but I remember you recommended me a Stephen Colbert interview with him that I remember being good.
Oh yeah, Mel Brooks is a legend, and he's, he still does his thing. He still acts. He was in Toy Story 4. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
As a toy elephant called Melephant Brooks, which is very funny, which is very
God,
good.
I need to see that film now.
Yeah, he's only in it for a little bit, but you get to hear old man Mel Brooks be doing an oy vey. So there you go. But I'm less familiar with her. Mel Brooks is iconic, of course, but we got a whole cavalcade of, hey, it's that person. Like I was saying to you before we recorded, Dr. Silberman from the Terminator films shows up for one scene in this movie, and I was like, hey, it's that guy. And then, hey, it's Colonel Sanders from Spaceballs, and hey, it's the priest from Spaceballs. Hey, it's actually a lot of people that will go on to be in Spaceballs. All right, there's a lot of Spaceballs DNA in this movie. Okay, Jose Ferrer, he's in this movie, and he's the most dramatically portrayed character of the film. The I love Nazis character.
Yeah,
the traitorous Polish man who's like, he has the whole line of like, the smell of was the Gestapo.
Yes, yeah.
That even when Mel Brooks' character says it perfectly, it's still met with like a joke answer because it's such a ludicrous phrase.
There were a lot of funny punchlines between like the fake Earhart and the real Earhart having the same lines.
But Jose Ferrer, he's an interesting fellow. I mean, he was in Lawrence of Arabia.
He was in the Cane Mutiny.
He was. And he's the father of Miguel Ferrer, who we love and adore, talking about David Lynch and all of that stuff. I mean, Mel Brooks wasn't involved with it, but David Lynch obviously did Dune. And Jose Ferrer was in that as the Emperor of the Universe.
Yeah, I read that trivia point, and it was like, oh, interesting. David Lynch worked with both of them.
Yeah. I would imagine he probably got the hook up to Miguel from his dad to be like, hey, my son. Because that's...
You're worthy of working with my son.
A lot of these stories are like that. Like,
No,
especially with David Lynch, like working with Dean Stockwell was like, oh, I know this guy called Russ Tamblyn. You should hire him to be in Twin Peaks. And then he's like Dr. Jacoby. So you're like, hey, there we go.
That's what they say in the business. It's not about your talent's secondary to who you know.
It's who you know. And there's a story of the behind the scenes of this. That's a bit of a play on that, where apparently everyone was like flubbing their lines all of the time. And Anne Bancroft was getting sick of it. So she stood up and just said, do you know that I'm sleeping with the producer? Let's get this right. And everyone just laughed because it's just the most absurd thing to say. But she tried to pull weight. It's like, do you know who I'm sleeping with? The producer.
Yeah, I don't know her too much outside of some Mel Brooks stuff too, but I know that we have a family friend of my mum's who lesbian, and apparently...
Okay, sorry, this is the way you said that. Go on.
Who is a lesbian, and apparently her, most attractive woman, Anne Bancroft.
Not wrong.
It's a good choice.
It's a good choice. This is every review I've read of this keeps talking about how Mel Brooks proves that funny guys can get the girls, because just look at this dynamic. Just look at them. It's just such a funny thing going on here. I could not. I said this briefly before we recorded. It's so strange to me that in every movie I've ever seen Mel Brooks in, him being Jewish is a part of his shtick in the performance, usually. Like he's in Robin Hood Men in Tights as a rabbi. Like he's in stuff, and it's often some Jewish shtick is involved. And then this is the one time it doesn't come up, because if it did, his character would be fundamentally fucked. There would be no way his character could progress beyond the first act without it being real tough for him to exist. But I just couldn't help but look at this obviously Jewish man standing in front of the Nazis, and they're just like, yeah, no, he's not Jewish at all. I'm like, no, it's Mel Brooks. Do you not know it's Mel Brooks?
And I made the joke like, oh, if he doesn't direct it, he's not Jewish.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this it just stood out to me. I don't know if that was in your mind at all when watching this, but it was just like in everything he always has some, little reference to being Jewish or
Yeah.
overt, and this is the time where it's like I can't do that because narratively it would screw everything up for my character.
Hey, there's plenty of Jewish characters in the film, so it made up for it.
Yes, they have tougher times.
Mm-hmm.
They have real tough times in this, but yeah. What do you want to talk about when it comes to the movie? Were there any bits that worked for you? Any highlights or anything that stood out?
Well, there was Best Supporting Actor nomination for this film.
Yes, there was.
Yes, for a fucking Nazi.
Yeah. You want to talk about that? And did you think they were very good?
He was very good. I had a lot of fun with that character. Colonel Earhart, where Mel Brooks brought in the aspect of making the Nazis incredibly, incredibly ridiculous. This is one of the guys who was basically in charge of the Warsaw occupation for this film's narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this big fat guy who is, very upbeat about a lot of things, and has a lot of, back and forth with Mel Brooks, where Mel Brooks is like humiliating him because Mel Brooks is in disguise as the Nazi sympathizer who has ties with Hitler. It's like,
direct ties
with Hitler. So he's bringing in all of these little elements to not only keep his disguise up, but to also belittle, this big fat Nazi guy.
Colonel Earhart, played by Charles Durning, who had a long history in the biz. He was a dancer originally.
Oh, interesting.
I think he had a quote saying, "Dancing was easy, acting was hard." He was in the Second World War as well. A lot of these actors were in the war. So I read this and I found this so interesting. He got shot by machine gun fire. Like, he got shot in the leg. He got fucking blasted.
That would hurt.
But then he was still able to dance after all that. He was like Fred Astaire's dance teacher. Like, he was a proper dance person in the biz. But then obviously as he got older, he became heavier, and then he became an actor, and he was in Coen Brothers movies, and he was in this, and he's in this, and this, and this. He was in Dog Day Afternoon. Like, he was everywhere. But
he was a character actor?
Yeah, and also just like, hey, it's Charles Durning, like, hey, it's that guy, he's here to do what he's got to do. And he was in the Muppets movie. Like, he's in a lot of stuff over the years, but I was happy to see him. He does chew up the scenery, and my personal favorite dynamic was him and Christopher Lloyd.
I was about to say, yeah, his direct subordinate.
They're almost like a married couple. It's just so... Christopher Lloyd is one of those guys, too, who always shows up in things, and you're like, holy shit, it's Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
Hi, Christopher Lloyd.
I saw his name in the credits, and I forgot that his name was in the credits, because, it's a while before you see him, but then he shows
an hour
up.
In.
Yeah, and then like 2 minutes in, I'm like, oh, that's him.
He's so dumb. His character is just such a dummy. It's a real Hogan's Heroes situation with these guys.
There's a thing with the Nazis in this one. Not all of them are played, super ridiculous. Some of them are just played like stiff. Like they'll just, yell responses or just like short lines. And he has that going on at first, but then once you put him together with Earhart, then it's or Earhart. Then you start getting him, being a bit more nervous because everything's his fault, even if it was actually Earhart's fault.
He says throughout the movie that he doesn't know anything. At first, that comes across as like a scary Nazi intimidation thing, but then it's just true. He really doesn't know anything.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
He's just so oblivious to it all. I love when the movie has the classic, you hear them make a plan and you go, well, obviously the plan's not going to work because we, the audience, have heard the plan, so it's obviously going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But then I like that they go that extra step further where Mel Brooks has come up with a plan. It doesn't seem like it's going to work, and then he does make it work, only for the rest of his crew to come in and ruin it because they didn't know that it actually, they didn't know that he figured out a workaround for the thing, but then it still works anyway. Like, I love the whole bit where the Nazis have brought Mel Brooks in knowing that he's not actually the Jose Ferrer character, knowing that it's a fake, and then he manages to get the crossover on them, and he shaves the beard off and puts a fake beard on him, and then makes them reveal, like, no, he's the double, actually, only for Mel Brooks' gang to come in pretending to be following the plan, coming in and be like, you didn't even check that this was a fake, and rip his beard off. And I just love Mel Brooks' expressions of like, no, don't do this. I've actually done a really genius thing right now, and no one will believe. Oh, okay. Just constantly his character giving the best performance of his life when no one's there to see it. It's just so amazing of a gag. It just keeps turning up again and again.
There was one line earlier on where he was getting very mad at his, world famous in Poland highlights from Hamlet, and he's getting mad at the guy for leaving. And the guys in the side wings were like, "What's going on? He's doing really well."
Yeah, because he's distracted.
Yeah.
The man who keeps leaving is Tim Matheson, who plays a young Polish soldier. Oh, did he feel so Polish to me? Oh boy. Oh boy.
Well, he sometimes called her Anna. That's a bit more of like if it was Anya, then it was like, oh, Polish. But, at least got the pronunciation kind of there.
He's the most good old American looking boy in this movie, huh?
Was he singing in Polish in that British scene?
I don't know. You tell me. Why are you asking me? I don't speak the language.
Yeah, well,
yes.
You notice things.
The fact that the movie had the balls to have Mel Brooks dressed up as Hitler enter a British bar and then immediately cut to them with the British generals being like, I'm glad this all worked out. I was waiting for them to shoot him. He's like, oh my god, it's Hitler, and then just fucking unload on him. I know this isn't the type of movie to do that,
yeah.
But I was waiting for at least guns to be drawn, and then him be like, oh no,
or like hijinks where he's like doing the
because he hasn't thought about how he's dressed as Hitler. He's just gotten so comfortable in it. It's always a good choice for Mel Brooks to dress up as Hitler because he's always just so funny.
There are some people, it's like, yeah, dress them up as Hitler.
He carries a comb with him everywhere he goes, so that way when he does interviews or meets people, he grabs out his comb, holds most of it with his hand, so then he can have the little tip of it and put it over his nose and then do the little Heil Hitler hand gestures, because he always wants you to know that the Nazis are a joke and pathetic and that we should piss on them all of the time, and I appreciate that. He always does that. He always grabs out the comb, combs his hair to the side, and then does the brush trick, and then does the zikhars, and you can see every chat show host ever in the world that have him on react like, oh no, you can't do this. Oh, it's Mel Brooks.
You're the one that's allowed to do it.
Yeah.
You're the one with the Lindsay Ellis video.
Yes.
Naughty Nazis was fun.
I loved Naughty Nazis. I wanted the whole thing of Naughty Nazis.
I remember it was the two things that I always thought about from this film: the opening singing number and then Naughty Nazis.
I like that Naughty Nazis gave them away with the professor, with the doctor, because when he's playing up being the colonel and then he turns his chair around and has it on the back,
he's
the
using the
Nazis.
set. He's got the phone that shakes like a cartoon phone.
Yeah, that reminded me of like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Like every time Joe Jonah Jameson's phone rang, it would do the exact same thing, and then he would have to get his heart meds because he was about to have a heart attack. It made me think of that. I was like, I don't know if Sam Raimi, I don't know, it was just one of those guys that, like, it was almost identical. Just the sound of it was just so good.
Oh man, my favorite gag is the one where they hide the newspaper under the dirt, the pot plant inside the big thing. And it's like, you'll never find it here. Hitler walks in. It's like, have you seen what they're saying about me in the papers? And he just picks it up right from the hiding spot.
Oh, I adored so much of this. Yeah, like, I still enjoyed this very much. It just made me curious. It was one of those ones where it's like, I can see what it's doing. It doesn't all work for me, but it does make me curious of what the first version of this looks like and why is it so beloved. Is it more direct in one way or the other? Or is it just evening out in a different sensibility? Because I can feel that kind of 1940s banter in this, but then every now and then it'll be like, no, now it's Mel Brooks type banter, which is different. He's more vaudevillian in his banter than some of those quick fire exchanges that you would see in like 1930s and 40s Hollywood comedies.
Yeah, I think there was a true point that said that Mel and Anne were both big fans of the original, so hopefully the love transition from that.
I'm trying to think what was one of my favorite. Oh, one of my favorite comedic moments was Mel Brooks getting in bed, talking lovingly to his wife, and then figuring out it's Tim Matheson dressed as her. And then how he knows is to start reciting To Be or Not to Be, and Tim Matheson just starts getting up and walking away because he's programmed into him to do that. It's just I thought that was marvelous stuff. I had a big smile on my face because it was one of those things in which I said to myself when the scene was happening, oh man, I sure hope that they do this, and then they did that, and I was real. That
happy. Was really because it was a punchline I was not expecting. I thought it was just going to be like a simple double take. Wait a minute, because it was like a very long time between like. He was, stroking her. It's like, oh, I love you. You're this, you're this, you're this. You need to shave, though. Then he goes to sleep, and it's like, oh, here comes the double take, but it takes like 15 seconds or something.
And then he goes, wait a moment, and he needs to give further evidence of like, it's this specific person. Because at first I thought he was going to think it was Sasha or something, because they live in that apartment. But then he's like, oh, no. I know who it is. I need to double check that with this,
that was a really good
with
gag.
This it was a good gag. I had a great time with that. I'm trying to think what were some other moments. I just appreciate seeing Mel Brooks be the lead and be an actor and actually get to see some more serious moments from him. Like he can pull it off. It's just you don't need that of Mel Brooks. Like you want, he's made his career being a funny person, but he is an interesting person. He's someone that you can't help but want to watch and listen to. Not only because he may make you laugh, but he's just such an engaging presence. He's got so much energy. As we record this, he's still alive. And every video, every clip of you see him today, he still has like that energy. It's still up to the roof. It's incredible. Like the man's going to turn like 99, soon, and he's still.
We were literally saying before we started recording, like, man, when we acknowledge his age, like, we hope we don't jinx it.
Yeah, he's just one of those people who, I feel for him because over the years, all of his peers have passed away. Cloris Leachman is gone, she was someone who was like him. You're like, oh, she's going to be around forever. And then no, and he's outlived pretty much everyone in his stable of actors. And you're just like, and some of them were real young too, real young. Like Gregory Hines, he was young when he went. And it's just like, Mel Brooks just keeps outliving them on. It's like, that's got to be such a weird way to live. Like it was surreal, like beautiful, but kind of heartfelt and touching, but also surreal to see him have to give like a statement about David Lynch going when it's like he's way older than David Lynch, and it's just like when David Lynch hired him to do The Elephant Man, he was like that kid who made that student film, The Elephant Man. Not Elephant Man, Eraserhead.
Yeah.
I'll get him to do my period piece movie because that's a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, it must be a weird thing because it's like, oh yeah, I'm the last one left from the people that were my age that I was working with, but also the younger people.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and not to bring everything down, but it is something I think about when this is a rare example of like a Mel Brooks is the lead of something that isn't purely his own, and he can carry it. He can do good stuff, and I'm not disappointed that he didn't do more like this, because when we talk about actors, and sometimes we go like, oh, I wish we got to see this side of them more, or when actors who are ongoing nowadays, like, oh, I hope that we get to see Dan Stevens play more freaks. And then what's happened, Bartek? He's played way more freaks. I remember when we started this podcast, I was like, oh, by the way, there's this actor, Dan Stevens, and he's like handsome British man. And I'm like, but he plays a freak occasionally, and I hope he does more of that. That's all he does now. And I'm like, yeah, I got what I wanted. But this isn't a case where I look back and go, oh man, I wish Mel Brooks did more. I'm happy with what Mel Brooks did. I'm like, if anything, I'm saddened that he retired from making movies. Like Dracula Dead and Loving It was such a failure that he was like, okay, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm just gonna retire from the biz. Basically, I'll appear in things. I'll do voices. I'll do cameos. But he's done. He was like, I'm done with directing.
Yeah,
basically.
I think he's got some writing credits, right?
Maybe the occasional. I mean, obviously the musical adaptations of his own works, like Young Frankenstein and The Producers, and all of that.
Oh yeah, he's got
stuff.
that thing where he always says the "be a smarty" line, right?
But is there anything else about To Be or Not to Be that you want to discuss?
So the remake happened 40 years after the original. It's now 40 years after the remake, so Mel Brooks,
Do it again.
you gotta usher in the next adaptation.
Oh, and the other movie that it was on the tip of my tongue that Mel Brooks produced was David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Okay.
Another fucked up, weird movie. Like,
That's got some disfigurement in it, doesn't it?
yeah, it does. Jeff Goldblum turning into a fly. That's the movie. And Mel Brooks said, I want to produce that, please. And don't put my name on it because no one would take it seriously. Fair enough. But what a weird career. It's like when Danny DeVito produces a lot of movies. Like, do you ever remember that Danny DeVito is one of the main producers of Pulp Fiction?
No, I know.
He's not in it.
I know you've definitely told me that multiple times, but I forget.
Like, Danny DeVito's name pops up at the start. Like, holy shit, Danny DeVito. And then he's not in the movie. He's just a producer of it. Like, oh, he's never been in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Until the 10th one.
Until the last one, where he plays the lead character. I'm trying to think. Anything else about To Be or Not to Be? I look forward to watching this again down the road. I'm glad that it's more than a film that had a really cool music video. Like that.
Yeah.
Did you think about that when watching this? Like, oh, this is the thing that spawned from. Even though that music video is its own entity, like it wouldn't exist without this movie.
I think the fact that I had watched part of it, and the fact that I knew it wasn't in it, like, did take it out of my mind a bit. But yeah, the fact that it exists is something that I did think of, and I did watch it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did not. I held off. I was like, I got to do it after the podcast because I've been thinking about it too much a little bit. Like, my brain was like, I know me. I would want to talk about it
Okay.
way more. I just was like, what
And
lines can I remember?
I know me. I didn't really want to talk about it that much, so I could watch it.
Yep. We're different
Yeah.
beasts.
It's
you and
it's
I.
very contemporary. It's very 80s. So it's like, of course, this isn't in the film because this film is genuinely set in the year it's set in.
And also, he is Hitler in the music video. He's not the character playing, he is
Yes,
Hitler.
yes.
Although it has some great lines. It has some great lines, some great verses. But I do recommend it. Remember, everyone, neither of us have seen the original, so we aren't tainted by that, oh, well, actually, this remake doesn't do the original one justice, because we haven't seen the original one. But I hope that one day maybe we'll cover it on the podcast. Maybe one of us or one of you out there will recommend it, and we will get around to doing it. I've never seen many films with those lead actors either. Carol Lombard, it was her last film before she died, rather tragically at a young age. And Benny Hall, I haven't seen any of his stuff either. I was like just looking at the cast, and I'm like, oh, do I know anyone from this? No, I know of them, but I've never watched anything with them. But you recommend, of course?
Oh, yeah, I love the film, so of course I recommend it. Keep in mind that the misconception isn't true. He didn't direct it, he didn't write it, he was just a producer and lead actor, so it isn't going to be like the other Mel Brooks films you think of. But it still has that energy in parts.
Would you say this would be a good film to show to someone who isn't a Mel Brooks fan? Is it different enough?
When you say isn't, like they've seen it and don't like it?
No, isn't a fan of his stuff.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Like, have seen his stuff and don't like it, or
Yeah.
just don't know about him.
No. They're not Mel Brooks fans. Would this be different enough? Because I was wondering that when I was watching it, because it doesn't have a lot of his silliness to it, but I don't know.
I think it might be a bit... I think they might have a bit more of like a venomous version of what you were saying earlier, where like they appreciate parts of it, but then Mel Brooks has to do his fucking thing. Kind of thing. So I don't know. I think it'd be a cautious recommendation. I know that Siskel and Ebert, like Ebert liked it. Siskel liked it a bit less, but on a second viewing, he really appreciated the more serious stuff. So maybe if you don't like Mel Brooks's regular stuff, see it twice.
Again, you and I, we keep doing this I'm the Siskel, you're the Ebert. You do a perfect Roger Ebert impression,
That's true, I do.
and I will die first. So,
You are taller than me, too.
I am taller than you. Like that, the qualification for me being the Siskel is I will die first.
Yeah, you're taller, you're thinner, you will die first.
I will die first. Well, everyone, it is now time to know what the next movie we will be watching and discussing on the podcast is. It is my time to
It's
recommend.
Siskel's turn.
It is Siskel's turn.
Saturday Night Fever. Ooh, okay.
I'm recommending an Oscars darling of a movie.
Mm.
It is a musical set in the past, but it was of the 2000s. We're going to go and visit some old friends as well. Some faces will pop up like, oh, these people. But we're going to do Chicago,
Yeah, okay.
the musical, starring Renee Zellweger
Mm-hmm.
and Richard Gere, of course.
Only seen it once. Looking forward to it.
John C. Reilly, everyone's favorite little guy. Yes. Did you ever, as we wrap this out, Anne Bancroft, her big role is The Graduate. She's Mrs. Robinson.
No, of course.
Have you ever seen that?
I have seen it.
I've never watched The Graduate. I've never watched it. It's always been one that I'm aware of, but I've never watched it. That's one of her big iconic roles.
I think Reese lent me the DVD once and I watched it.
And you liked it?
I remember liking it.
Yeah. I like just the look on your face when I said it. You're like, of course she's that. Oh, God. You needed to see her in this movie with her leg up with a martini in hand. And then Mel Brooks saying in his voice, are you trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson? She has a thing for short Jewish guys, I guess.
I think it's You're Trying to Seduce Me, Mrs. Robinson.
See, I've never seen the movie.
Yeah.
I've only seen it regurgitated in pop culture. There's like a whole Simpsons episode about that, basically, isn't there?
Yeah, I think they recreate the shot with Krabappel, was it?
Oh, they also do the ending of it, right? With
The Wayne's World recreates it almost shot for shot.
where I guess where it was Marge, yeah.
Oh, right, in The
Marge's-
Simpsons.
Yeah, in The Simpsons,
Yeah,
Marge's mum and Mr. Burns, right?
Yeah.
When they get their relationship, isn't there like the whole bit where they're at the back of the bus and it just kind of sits there as they, as is The Graduate.
Pardon me, though, Wayne's World 2.
Please, I've watched Wayne's World 2 the least amount of times possible, which is once, and I didn't care for it as much.
Okay.
I've seen it. We've talked about it. Will we ever cover Wayne's World 2 and convince me that it's all right? I don't know. We'll have to find out one of these
I have the
days.
ultimate argument that it's all right.
Which is?
I like it.
Good. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can recommend movies to us and let us know your thoughts and feelings on things we have discussed here today. You can contact us on social medias of Facebook and Twitter, as well as our email address, which is, Bartek?
The email address, which you can see in the description if you're on a sort of screen device, is spitandpolished@gmail.com.
Oh, thank you for letting everyone know that the description holds those things, as well as various other podcasting sites we can be found on. And, if you haven't rated and reviewed the podcast, you should.
Yeah, and I think the description also still has a message saying, hey, if you want us to promote your podcast, send us a thing.
If you want to, we've always offered that. And some people took it up and then not for a while, but that's okay. If you want to, let us know. Okay? Right? It's also been a while since we've had anyone recommend a movie to us. Just a little while.
Yeah, we've got a lot on the list.
We've got a lot on the list, but they're from like 2 people, so we need to freshen it up. I'm sorry, Stefan and Amanda. You can't always be the ones that we do recommendations from just because you gave us like 50 each. And all of them are horror movies from like the last 3 years that you saw in the cinema together. I don't even know if they saw them together.
I don't think
it
they
just
did.
feels like they did because they're often the same. Like half of them, like Amanda and Stefan, both recommend this because they both saw
there was
the
like
cinema. Not maybe together, but they both saw. I'm like, what's the deal? I remember I said to you, "Are they dating?" You're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay." This is one of those things. It's like, okay, they have similar tastes.
It is heavily skewed Stefan. Stefan's the big recommender.
All right. If I go back and there's a lot of Stefan / Amanda, I'm gonna count that.
There was like half a dozen or something.
And we've done a lot of Amanda ones.
We
too.
have, yeah.
So I don't know. But enough about the inside baseball of who recommends things, people. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, remember to be kind to each other or else those nasty Nazis will come get you, and you don't want that. You really don't want those nasty Nazis.
Those notorious Nazis.
Did you love at the end of the movie when they gave everyone a little bow on the stage?
Yeah, I like that touch.
And the dog got to be there, and they got to introduce the dog's name, which was like, what was it, like Stumpy or something?
Yeah,
weird?
something like that, or Clump Champ or something.
Yeah, it was very cute.
And there was a bookend gag there too, where it was Anne Bancroft's name in the
Parentheses,
brackets, parentheses, yeah.
And then they did a little gag, and then it got the burst out of the parentheses and became big, which is cute.
All right, there is one thing I need to emphasize from the Polish segment at the beginning.
Yes,
segment.
Sekmet.
It's literally the last Polish line is when Anne Bancroft says, "Wiesz co, mam cię w dupie." I love that line because I think I've heard that a couple of times in real life.
What does it mean?
It's basically, I've had it with you, or get off my ass kind of thing. Basically, a rude but not as explicit version of fuck off. It like literally means like, you know what, you're on my ass, or you're in my ass or something. And I think I've heard like arguments with some of my family members where, one of them, usually like the wife or something, will just get fed up and say, "Wiesz co, mam cię w dupie."
Last question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever asked this. I probably have, but when in Poland they have foreign films, they dub them over with a lector. We've talked about this before, where the English audio or whatever foreign language audio is lowered.
Yep.
And then a monotone man talks over it, basically doing their lines, but not acting. He's just communicating across the information. What happens in movies like this in which there are segments where the characters are speaking Polish? Does he still do it? Or does he just let them speak?
That's a good question. I would imagine they just let them speak. I think Poland would really like that. Like, oh, fuck, they don't even need the lector here.
Here's my counter, though.
Yeah.
It's a lector. That's my counter. They don't make... It's a lector where it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman or child or old person. Everyone gets the one monotone man who gets to speak over them.
Do you want him to just read the dialogue of the song while they're singing?
Yes. I've asked you what he does with musicals. I've actually asked you what he does with musicals, and you don't know.
I think they just play the songs as is, or they dub the song, like do their own Polish version.
Okay. I want him to sing. And we've said this before. For the last while, there's been like that one main guy. We need to learn what his name is.
Yeah, I think we might have looked it up at some point.
There's been like that one main man who's like, he is the king of being the Polish lectors. There's very few female ones. There's a lot of male ones, but there's one king of Poland.
Yeah, I don't even know if I knew there were female ones.
He is called Bartek. That's the twist.
Oh, is he that Polish actor that has a very similar name to me?
You do have one like that?
His name's like Bartłomiej Kasprzykowski.
A ski?
It's like a ski version of my name.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a hint.
Yes.
You need to have a ski at the end of your name. Every Polish person does. When I have people guess my name, like where it's from, they all most times get it wrong. But whenever someone gets it right and they know immediately it's Polish, they say because of the ski. It's like, oh, clearly you're Polish because of that. And I always give a little chuckle, like, I guess that's the trait to look at.
I don't know if this is the guy. I've just Googled, I specifically typed in Polish lector voice, and I scrolled down a little bit, and there is a Wikipedia entry for a guy named Tomasz Knapik. It says here that he passed away in 2021, but the intro sentence was a Polish film, radio, and television voiceover translation artist, brackets known as lektor in Polish. And he was born 1943, so I don't know when he started, but...
1944.
1944.
As soon as he could get little noises out, they had him lectoring all over the place.
Yeah, well, I hope it's not this guy, because then he'd be dead.
We have AI now.
He's very handsome.